Hey guys, Lizardlea here for Rathalos, Monster Hunter Cross Stitch by the Even Star Crafts. I'm going to continue putting their Etsy in the description so you guys can get the pattern there if you're interested. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but I mean it's a cool looking dragon. I'm excited. Speaking of dragons, actually, so this David's mom got me for Christmas. This David got me for our anniversary. So I have more dragons now. I'm not excited about it at all. No. I feel like I should add also this big scratch on my chin. I scratched myself a couple nights ago. I woke up and I was just moving. I was rolling over and I went, and so I was like, I think I might be bleeding. I can't go back to sleep right now. I went to the bathroom. I got some toilet paper. I went, and I went back to sleep. And there was no more blood. So nobody wants to hear this. What am I doing?
All right. So, the last Fate Heaven's Feel movie came out, and David and I just watched it the other day. And oh my goodness, you guys. Between the three movies, it has like two of my favorite fights of all time. They were amazing.
They were very pretty.
The pretty?
And well choreographed.
Pretty? What? What fights are you talking about? You need to get back over here and do your recap thing, because we all know you're better at it.
Am I doing the entire Heaven's Feel, the entirety of Fate? What's the...
I guess we could do a quick rundown of Fate just to give people an idea in case they didn't listen to the previous ones.
Alright, so Fate's frickin' weird, step one.
Okay, you need to come back over here so they can actually hear you.
Fate's frickin' weird, step one.
Yes. Watch this video by this guy on YouTube.
Yeah, Giguk.
Yep, there you go.
It's an anime based on a game. It's weird. It's definitely not all ages appropriate by any means.
I mean, the show, I would say, is not as bad as the original book game thing.
No, because the game has some...
Very adult themes.
Yes.
Versus the shows.
The
I
show,
mean, like, there's fighting and there's violence, but...
Well, the movie definitely has the adult themes again.
Oh, okay, yes. The Heaven's Feel, the three movies, is definitely not child appropriate.
Yeah, no.
But I feel like the original, like the Fate Zero, if you're okay with violence...
Yeah, it's very violent, though. Not extreme, but it's not... Anyways,
well, actually, you see Sakura with the bugs, even in that one, don't you?
you don't see anything explicit, but it's implied. Yeah, it's disturbing.
Yeah.
Like, I would not recommend this for young children at all.
Oh, gosh, no. But, I mean, like, if you watch it and you feel comfortable letting your kids see it, there you go. But the Heaven's Feel movies, I feel like that will just never, because that has way too many...
Yeah. So anyways, point is...
Way too much.
The concept is that magic is real, and it's a secret, and every so many years in Fuyuki, I think, is where they're at? I don't remember the name.
I have no idea.
But it's fine. You've been to Japan!
That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, but I figured
I
you'd be
lived
better
on Yokota, and it was a 15-minute, or it was a 10-minute walk to Fusa Station, which was like a 10-minute train ride to Tokyo.
Right. So anyways,
So...
I think it's in Fuyuki. I might be pronouncing that wrong. Every so many years, there's a massive, basically free-for-all tournament-style thing for the Holy Grail. And whoever wins will get their wish granted. Like any wish, which is a big deal because that's a lot of magic. In order to fight and win, only 8 people are allowed. I think it's 8? 8 people? Something like that. 8 people-ish are allowed. They all have to be mages. And the Grail picks you. You don't get to sign up. It just picks you. Sort of, kind of. It's kind of implied that certain people can be chosen through means. That's other stuff. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
You get to summon a servant. So, a servant is a hero from history brought back to life by the Grail to serve you to help you win the war. These are always famous historical figures, or usually mythological figures, to be more precise, throughout history. So the big, air quotes, twist that's super well known by this point is one of the main characters gets the Saber Servant, which in this case they accidentally summon King Arthur. And surprise, King Arthur is a young teenage girl.
Was it an accident?
In this one, yeah, absolutely.
In Fate Zero?
Not in Zero.
Okay,
yeah.
I thought you were doing... Okay,
I'm getting there.
Well, you had me reading it is Fuyuki.
Okay, so anyways, the short version is that this is all very, very complex and intertwined, but Fate Zero was the first one to get a TV show recently by a company called Ufotable, or Ufotable, something like that. And they did a really, really good job with it. Fate Zero is technically the prequel to the original, which spoils the original, but nobody cares except for diehards. It's really good. It's got a really good plot. It's got really good themes. It's got excellent animation, really good fight scenes. They call it unlimited budget works. They just do an incredible job. So because of that, the original story that the game was based on takes place next. There are 3 routes through that game. One is called Fate, one is called Unlimited Blade Works, and one is called Heaven's Feel. Without getting into all the weirdness, they chose to do Unlimited Blade Works for the next TV season. So that one got a TV show as well. I think both are on Netflix. They're both really good.
They're both amazing.
Yeah.
I've rewatched both of them several times, and it's still good.
Yeah, I have also rewatched them. I think they're just really good anime. Like, if you can deal with the themes and whatnot, it's great.
And it has awesome fight scenes.
Yeah.
And, like, the heroes that get summoned, dude, they are iconic. It is amazing.
For example, not to super spoil anything, but, like, King Arthur I already spoiled, but that's immediate. You have...
I mean, of the ones that, like, aren't a secret, you know, like, you learn immediately when you meet them, Hercules is one of them.
Yeah,
Hercules. Every single one of his fights, you guys, is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I love every single fight he is in.
Yeah.
Because it is lore relevant. Like, if you know anything about Hercules, and, you know, like, his 12 trials and stuff, they may not be perfect, but, like, they pull it together in a really interesting way, so that if you know what Hercules went through, it makes it feel even more...
I get where you're going.
Like,
yeah.
I don't know what the word I'm looking for
Relevant.
is. Yes.
Yeah, so either way, I mean, they're just cool looking.
Is my favorite one, you find out about him early, right?
Yeah, he doesn't shut up about it.
Yeah, so Iskandar! Alexander the Great, he is my favorite across every single iteration. It is so much fun, and he's so funny, and he's so strong. And it makes sense, because Alexander the Great conquered a gigantic part of the world.
Yeah.
Like, he lives up to, you know, like, the hype of his story.
Yes. It's
Sorry.
very cool.
I get very passionate about
about
the ones that I really like. I get excited.
Yes. So, point is you have to summon one of these servants, and you don't know which one you're going to get always. Like, normally, if you're someone who is planning for this tournament and plan to be in it, you'll, like, try and find a relic related to them so that you can summon the one you want. Each one fits into a class. There's, like, a whole RPG video game system behind all this that doesn't ever really get fleshed out, but exists or really matter all that much. They'll drop a line every now and then, like, oh, you only dodged that because of your luck stat. Like, yeah, okay, great. Saber dodging the undodgeable attack once or twice.
Okay.
Yeah, so this one... So basically they did Fate Zero, which is the prequel, then they did Fate Unlimited Blade Works, which is one of the 3 routes. It's the second one you'd normally take. And then they decided to do Fate Heaven's Feel, which is the 3rd route, because the very first route already got an anime adaptation. It's considered to be really bad, that's all we'll say. So the movies... I keep
hearing that, but I still want to watch it, you guys. Continue, David.
Maybe you should watch it before you play the game, because you're not going to like it if you play the game. So the movies were Heaven's Feel, and they got 3 movies. And Heaven's Feel is disturbing because of the material it's dealing with. All the games the game itself is a little concerning, disturbing in ways. The shows are a little disturbing in ways. Heaven Feel is the most of all of these, both because they made it a movie, so they're like, cool, we don't have to cut as much content because we can make it more adult, and just because that was the nature of the plot. Mm-hmm. Having played the game when I was quite young, like a teenager, I didn't like this route very much because it's kind of frickin' weird. But it does have some really cool fights, which now you get to see them in all their glory with a gazillion-dollar budget is just really cool to see.
I made David rewind so I could watch one a second time immediately.
Yeah.
It was amazing!
So, the rough play by, or the rough, now that we finally got to
Synopsis?
Heavensfield, the rough synopsis for Heavensfield itself is a boy named Shiro Emiya has accidentally joined the Grail War, because it always needs one servant for each class, and if it doesn't have enough mages who are, like, willing to play, it'll just grab people it thinks will work. So, like, in the Fate Zero, it grabs a psychopath, like a literal serial killer.
And that was freaking awesome,
yeah,
too.
that was incredibly well done.
Oh, man. And that was when you don't learn who it is immediately. Or at
No.
least I don't think you do.
Well, it's also a very obscure person.
Yeah, he does introduce himself, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's just not many people are going to know who that
Yeah.
is unless they're history buffs. And he's not a hero. He is...
Oh, absolutely not. He's summoned by a psychopath, and he was also a psychopath, so it's great.
I'd say he's worse. But anyways,
I mean, he was crazy, has some issues.
I think the problem is he's not crazy. But anyways, point is...
Well, he did crazy stuff. How's that?
Yeah, so he accidentally gets entered into this tournament because it turns out his dad, who's his adopted dad, because he's the survivor of the tragedy at the end of the last tournament, happened to summon someone at his place, and so he was standing next to their summoning circle about to be killed when the Grail went, okay, congrats, you're one of us now, and entered him in the tournament.
And
so,
you get Saber!
Yeah, he gets Saber, which is a big deal in
Generally
World.
the strongest class.
And yet, in practice. So anyways,
I like Ryder, personally.
yes, Liz tends to like Ryder.
I love Ryder.
Yeah. So he accidentally gets entered in this tournament, and he's dealing with the fact that he has a close female friend named Sakura who basically lives with him for most of her time because it's clear her family situation at home is less than ideal. Like, her brother beats her.
Like, horrific.
Yeah, we know it's horrific just from watching other show, but like even if you hadn't watched, you'd be like, oh, this is pretty bad. Mm-hmm. It's way worse than it appears.
Absolutely.
And it appears bad, so...
And you do see some scenes later that
And like, I don't know how else to like dance around it, but like the original game is quasi-dating sim, I suppose you could say. So it's pairing off the main character with different women depending on which path you go. And so this path is the Sakura path. So we're going to learn all about her life and her tragedies and... Tragedies. And the big thing is that each path, you don't always find everything out. There's mysteries left behind. So it's sort of like when you finish the very first path, you don't know who the archer class is. You don't know who the rider class actually is. It focuses on specific characters, and you find out about them because you fight them, but other characters die off screen or die before you really find anything out. Then you do the Blade Works path, and you find out more about Archer, but you still don't know anything about Ryder.
Absolutely.
And this path, you finally find out about Ryder and why she's been so weak and why she can be really awesome.
I freaking love Ryder, you guys! Oh my god! More of the mythologies that I want in my life. That is all I'm going to say about her, because...
Okay.
Or, well, I mean, when we get
doing
to
the
spoilers.
synopsis now. So, the short version, again, is that this is a big war, and lo and behold, his life and family and friends are all involved, and he has to figure out how to thread the needle on that, while also having one of the dumbest mental states possible. It is a major point of all three of these routes that he wants to be a hero, but he's an idiot. He doesn't want to be like, well, being a hero is hard, and you have to make sacrifices and whatnot. He just wants to save everyone.
He's like Sailor Moon, you guys.
Yeah.
He will kill himself to save everyone else.
Including the villains, including the people killing the people he wants to save. And he's not really prepared to deal with the difficulties of that reality.
He's a child.
He's a teenager, yeah.
He's a child.
He's a dumb
He's
teenager.
in high school. He's a child.
He's friends with frickin' what's-his-face, Shinji. Because he's an idiot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like,
That would be
he's
Sakura's...
absolutely an idiot. I agree with that.
That's Sakura's abusive brother, who's like so obviously a horrible person that he's used to kind of highlight how stupid the protagonist is, that he would even think that they're friends. It's just, yeah. So, it's a thing. And lo and behold, hijinks ensue. And they get really dark in this one really fast, because it's just like, congratulations, you've already dealt with our other two paths, let's grind down to brass tacks real fast and get messed up ASAP. because you're dealing with Sakura, and her whole story is just abominably, horrifically sad.
So, yeah, there were a lot of times when watching these movies where I was like, this girl is just so damaged. She should not have a boyfriend right now.
Yeah,
she should have a therapist.
Yes.
That's what she needs, because
It is
physical,
absolutely
mental,
one of those.
emotional, all of the damages have happened to this girl,
Yeah.
and it's not fair.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, like, oh, a teenager wrote this sort of thing, like,
Yeah.
and it makes sense there, and, like, the whole fantasy fulfillment thing, but if you think about it for, like, 5 seconds as an adult this is not a healthy human being, this is not okay.
Like, this girl needs help. She deserves help, and, she needs it.
Yeah, she doesn't need magic, she needs a vacation and a therapist,
Yeah.
so...
Like, 3 therapists. It's so bad.
It's really brutal. But... it, from a mythological and cool anime stuff standpoint, is really well done.
Yeah.
There's some amazing fights, like Assassin versus Lancer.
That is, like, my favorite. I love that one so much.
She cannot sit in her chair while saying
That
this.
was the
She's so
one I
excited.
made David rewind so I could rewatch it.
Yes,
It was so good, you guys.
It's very cool.
Like, literally, if you don't even want to watch it, but you want to see a cool fight,
Just YouTube that fight scene, yeah. Nothing to
Lancer versus Assassin.
Yeah, a little bit of violence, but that's about it.
So good. Sorry,
Kind
continue.
of a lot of violence, but nothing.
It's so good. I mean, is there blood in this one?
Yes.
With no, oh, I guess, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I don't know, it's been a while, because I know, like, the masters definitely, because they're human, but I was like, do the servants? Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely,
they do, yeah.
Oof, yeah.
I had to think about it. You're right, yeah.
It's a
So,
bit
yeah,
weird.
there's blood. Like, if you can't handle that, then don't.
Yeah. But other than that, it's a very, very well done, well animated, just cool fight scene, especially because for people who were fans of the games, like, I liked them, but I wasn't a huge fan. It's neat to see all this stuff finally, like, realized in... You know, it's kind of like watching comic book movies finally get to a big fight, where it's like, oh, I've read the comic, but now I get to see that be done in just, like, all its glory.
Yeah, it's more than just 2D in a comic book where I have to imagine what's happening between the panels.
Yeah.
It's still 2D, but you get to see it in motion. Oh. And honestly, the Assassin versus Lancer fight was really cool because there were times when, you know, like, the camera wasn't static. It would move with the character or move around them, and it was just... It was so good, you guys!
Liz has opinions.
I do. You can continue now.
Can I? So yeah, it's kind of freaking good. Of note, I guess it's kind of hard to go any farther without spoiler territory. It's just like, there's, the whole thing is like riffing off the spoilers on the other ones, plus like massive spoilers for this one. Finding out like why Ryder has always been really weak and now is suddenly very strong. Finding out, well, not exactly
Who
suddenly.
Ryder is?
Finding out who Ryder is, finally. Finding out... for the record, Ryder is like this ridiculously gorgeous, pink-haired woman with spiked chains.
Isn't it
and
purple?
It's pink.
Oh, okay.
And a blindfold thing over her eyes.
Yep.
Looks like a visor.
And she has like a chain thing.
Yeah,
It's
spiked
cool.
chains. But yeah, it's a thing. But yeah, it's all very cool. I would say that, like...
It looks pink and purple depending on how it's colored.
Okay, right. Rin is
In the
brown
lighting.
hair, or is she black hair?
Rin's a brunette.
Whatever, dear.
Internet backed me up on that
The
one.
internet's wrong, too.
No, I won that one. But yeah, no. Ryder is really interesting. She always has on this blindfold. And it isn't until near the end of the 3rd movie that if you don't spoil it for yourself, you're not going to find out who she is until the end.
Which, to be very clear, is kind of on purpose. Like, literally, you only see her fight very briefly in the other routes, and she usually gets trashed almost immediately.
And there's a
so
reason
you're like,
for it.
you don't know what she does, because she just gets destroyed in really weird circumstances at that.
But she finally gets to go all out in this fight at the end.
You actually find out more about her in the Fate route than you do in the route you've seen.
I have no idea what you're talking
The
about.
route you haven't seen, the original,
Well,
yeah. I realized that you would know more about her from that, but oh well.
Sure. So, it's awesome, you guys. Like, David spoiled it for me very early on, because he was like, because I wanted to know. I was like, who is she? Why is she dead? She looks really hot. I want to know who she is. Why is she in a blindfold? Like, I would not let him, because I was like, you either tell me or I'm going to Google it. Like, I'm going to find out. And he told me,
John.
and dude, so good. And I guarantee you, even with all of my knowledge and all the fangirling that I do in relation to who this character is based on, I still would not have figured it out on my own.
Yeah, they take some freaking liberties.
They really do. But
it's still cool.
I like it. Like, it's still...
It's stylized.
Like what I was saying with Hercules, with his 12 trials, they pull things from the lore, and you're just like, oh, I get it. Like, yeah, that makes sense. You know, like, that kind of fits. It's not perfect, but it fits, and I love it. That fight was so good.
So, I guess we'll move into spoilers. Because I don't know how else to continue discussing this without
going into spoilers?
Yeah. So, first of all, I recommend you watch it if this sounds remotely interesting and you think you can stomach all this. But...
Well, okay.
Don't just start with the movie, start with the Fate Zero if you haven't already. But
yeah.
The odds of someone listening to this at this point not remembering it, like, whatever. Point is...
Well, no, I would say watch Fate Zero, watch Fate Unlimited Blade Works, and look at what they did to Sakura
and
in
ask
those
if
ones.
you want to know more.
And if you want to know more, if you're comfortable with it, watch Heaven's Feel. If you are not, don't do it, because it gets 100 times worse in Heaven's Feel.
It really does.
Yeah.
Anyways, first thing, since Liz has been rambling about it, Ryder is Medusa.
It's so cool!
Yeah, it's very cool.
Love Greek mythology!
Yeah, so it's a very neat interpretation of her. And she's been weak this entire time because basically in every other route, she's Sakura's servant, but her brother basically beats her and then takes her servant from her.
And he has no magical ability.
Yeah.
So she has no mana to feed off of.
Yeah, and that's like a huge point in all this.
Yep.
And so he winds up hyper weak, and thus, or he is hyper weak, thus she winds up weak and gets just trashed. In fact, Heaven's Feel starts with her getting trashed.
Yep.
In a really hilarious 5-second fight. And probably the only show off for Saber as Saber. Because she just straight dies in this one. Yeah.
What?
Saber doesn't get to be, like, whiny. We don't have to worry about Saber's backstory. We don't learn anything
about
Saber.
No.
She just gets...
Saber is always the least interesting to me, even though she's, like, the most powerful. And so when Medusa just whoops her butt, I cheered so hard.
You know what?
But also because it was Medusa, and, like, I love Medusa.
We should start
the writer class.
Old anime, the one that most people don't like. Just so
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, no, so we should start it.
Oh, yeah, okay. I thought you said you wanted to
she
talk about it.
She doesn't listen to me. You all heard
I thought you
evidence.
said you wanted to talk about it, and I was like, I won't be able to help you. Like,
so, point is, it starts out pretty much as I explained, and you find out that basically Sakura's getting abused in way more ways than I want to go into on this. But
yeah,
film
her brother, her grandpa, and the bugs. Like,
because her grandfather
it's bad.
is basically this immortal guy who's been like around for darn near ever.
Yeah, he's basically made of bugs.
Yes, and so in the other routes, the assassin class also is something you don't find out much about. In fact, in one of the routes you find out that, like, the original assassin wasn't summoned because the rules got broken and someone managed to summon a special assassin. Mm-hmm. And that's a whole thing because they summoned a person who never existed. They summoned a literal...
a literal Japanese myth.
Yeah, well, it's a little weird to say that and then go, but Hercules, but anyways, within the world's view, it works. Your saucer captured you. Anyways, so what happens this time is the proper assassin gets summoned out of the fake assassin. Right at the beginning, you see it pretty much pulling aliens and chestburster from him, and it's this, like, dark shrouded guy with, like, a skull mask, and he murders the caster and her master as well, like, right off the bat, which is already a huge change from
that one still Medea?
Yes.
It was, okay.
Yes, caster in this case is Medea.
He killed another Greek myth.
Yep. Not a fan of them Greek myths. So
you get a lot more of her in
Blade Works.
Blade Works.
Yeah, that's kind of her big shiny.
Yeah.
And then Berserker and...
Berserker is Hercules.
And someone else is the other route. Shiro does Shiro things and is mostly kind of useless because he doesn't know what he's doing. His servant's not very good. He still teams up with Rin, though, who is the hot girl from his school who's super smart and super straight A's and whatnot. And secretly, Sakura's older sister, yeah.
Yes. And she has a lot of magic power.
Yeah, she is very powerful, and she is the archer servant's master. So they basically team up because, oh my god, Berserker is a truck, and we have no idea how to stop him, and it's a problem. So let's put things on hold.
And if we're going into spoiler territory, so the Hercules thing with the 12 trials, he can be revived 12 times in a day.
Yeah, and it's hard to kill him
because he's Hercules. Like, you know, he is gigantic and powerful and a demigod.
And he's also Berserker class, which
makes him even more powerful and really terrifying. Like,
yes.
He looks like his skin is like black and his veins are darker. Like he's very just scary looking.
Yeah.
And like when he breathes out, like steam comes out of his nose. Like he's scary to look at. Like if I saw him, I'd be like, ha! I'd pee my pants and die right there of fright. I'm just saying.
Incredibly terrifying.
Yes.
So that's him, and then so they team up. And lo and behold, the team up is not going super well because Shiro's just an idiot. And I forget how they lose Saber exactly, because there's the shadow thing. Basically, unlike the other routes, there's this weird shadow thing going around, and it's messing stuff up because it's incredibly dangerous and hyper powerful. And they don't know what it is. And I can't even explain well without getting like into really nitty gritty weird Fate lore stuff. But kind of all you need to know is it's Sakura's grail. It gets weird. And it's dangerous as hell. And it, Saber, wait, what happens to Lancer? Oh, Lancer fights Assassin and dies. And it's one of the coolest fights ever. They are running around trying to attack one another through the city. They get to this portion where it's like, it's kind of lit by like low lamps, and there's water, and it was so cool. It was so cool. Like I can't even describe it. You just have to watch it. It was so good. It was. I loved it. And because of that fight, well, I guess it doesn't really matter. I don't want to go into Kyrie. So Lancer dies fairly early on, which is unusual as well. That's usual. Lancer always dies, and it's sad. Yeah, he does. You don't want a Lancer class. You really don't. Suck. They're always really cool, but like they don't make it far. I feel like this guy sucks at fights. This guy's basically Irish Hercules, which is he's Cuchulainn if you know your mythology. So he's dead, and now God, I can barely remember. It's been so long, but eventually. It comes out that Sakura is really Rider's master, and Shinji's been abusing her, and Shiro like says, "Oh, I'm going to protect you and help you and blah 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 and be your boyfriend and stuff," because it's that kind of story. That does not go so well because she shortly thereafter kills her brother, who is totally deserving of being murdered at this point and any other. He assaults her, and you see it. Yeah. So if you're not prepared for that, don't. Yeah, it's not even remotely like sympathetic, but it's more just she's finally falling apart because she's got this weird entity thing living in her, and it's making her super strong and super crazy because she's finally just falling apart now that she has power to defend herself after being such a mess. Because the reason she's been going through hell her entire life is because you can only pass your magic craft down to one child. It is very, very difficult to be a mage. I really like this about the world building, and they never really work on it. In that it's implied to take lifetimes of lifetimes of lifetimes to get anything accomplished. So it's all about passing your work down. And since you have to do super specific things and all this other crazy stuff, you only ever pass it down to one kid because you can't teach them all. So there's three big families, the Matos, the Ainsburns, and the, oh my god, what's her name? Tosaka. And the Tosaka had two kids, Rin and Sakura. And that's super unusual. So since the Matos have basically had their family line die out, for other random reasons, they decided to basically adopt Sakura out to the Matos so they would have someone to teach. And so Sakura, from a very young age, has been living with them, being horrifically tortured. And Rin is somewhat aware of this, although maybe not to the full extent of how bad it is.
Like, I think, from what I saw, I feel like she knew that her brother was at least emotionally abusing her.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was clear that he was physically abusing her or anything worse than that.
I know Shiro is surprised when he finds out about the bruise.
Well, I mean, Sakura doesn't...
I don't know that Rin knows.
She doesn't tell anyone.
Yeah, she's Sakura about
That's
it.
how... that's how abused she is. Like...
Yes, it's true, but it's also, like, the trope that they're trying to invoke, which is annoying. But
well, I mean, it is... true to life, though. A lot of people aren't comfortable coming forward about that.
Oh, I know. It's just
like her brother. She knows she's adopted, but that's her brother. Like,
I'm more talking about the way she acts every other second, like the whole blah 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 senpai stuff. Yeah. She does get a personality in this one because she's finally just breaking, and it is interesting, and it's nice to see the sort of Rin and Sakura sister moments, which
really
you only get in this route, but. Yeah.
I mean, in the end, I would say Sakura has a happy ending in this one. Like, she gets to actually have a sister, and like you see, like it happens across several seasons in just like a 1 minute little clip where you see them walking home together, and eventually they start holding hands. You guys, I almost cried. I was so happy because they both clearly cared about one another. But they didn't get to act like they were sisters because they were in two different families and. Bless you.
Thank you. And I think Sakura's really aware too.
What? Sakura's aware what?
That she's adopted.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
She knew they were sisters.
Yeah, I couldn't, but they pretend they're not or something.
Yeah, like they're not supposed to.
Yeah, it's all screwed up and weird.
It really is.
It is not a happy world. That is part of the point. It's a very dark setting, and while I don't love what they've done with the setting over the years, because I think it's a great world and kind of not super well used, these arcs play it well. I'll be blunt in that, like, I don't like the Heaven's Feel plot. Like, if you sit down and go, like, is this a good plot? The answer is nah. Not even from, like, this is kind of aimed at horny teenage boys standpoint. It's even not that great from that standpoint, in my opinion.
I mean,
but
if I was gonna enjoy my time with anyone in the story, Sakura would be a -10 because she just needs a therapist. She doesn't need a boyfriend right now.
Yeah.
She just needs to get help.
Like,
I'm not saying she doesn't deserve a boyfriend. She absolutely does. She deserves someone who's going to be there and take care of her and be nice to her. But she has so much damage built up for her entire life. I think she needs to get some help. And I think the only way that can happen is with a therapist. Like, just because she gets a boyfriend who's nice to her now isn't going to negate everything that happened to her in the past. So, yeah, sorry. I have very strong feelings about this. I think people deserve to get help.
Yes.
If you don't think that you need it, don't force yourself. But this girl absolutely needs it. I don't think I will ever find a person that will ever disagree with that.
Yes. But my point was,
sorry,
from like a literary standpoint, just writing style, how characters are motivated and whatnot, this is not good stuff. The other ones I think are pretty good. Fate Zero is a legit good story, as is, I'd say, Blade Works. Blade Works is a little more, again, teenage boy oriented, but it's still got some really interesting themes in how they handle them. This one, I don't really like the themes. I don't really like some of the characterizations because they don't work super well, because it's like no one's being themselves, because a huge point of the plot is that Sakura can't be herself, so you don't really get to know her towards the end, and by then she's like losing her frickin' mind.
Absolutely.
Justified, but, and then just there's some definite like, I get that, like, that's what you're going for here, but that doesn't really work if you're remotely aware of how emotional abuse works. And it just doesn't work well. But from a turn your brain off and enjoy, like, a story that's, like, or not a story, but just, like, a spectacle, there's the word I'm looking for. Enjoy the spectacle of, like, watching people blow each other up in this really cool, dark, crapsack world.
It's awesome.
It's awesome, yeah. I still like Blade Works more, just because it's one of my favorites, and I like Fate Zero the most, I think, because it's just the best story.
And I think Blade Works was my favorite.
What helps is that, like, at the end of the day, you can tell, even if I didn't tell you, that these shows are kind of like, this was written for like teenage boys, huh? Like,
Well, I mean, it's a bunch of heroes from the past fighting.
Yeah, but it just so
they're
happens that
people-
the high school boy
and all the girls are hot.
Yeah, and all the high school girls are hot, and a lot of them kind of have a crush on him.
Yeah.
Some more obviously than others. Like, gee, boy, that's kind of convenient.
And yet, I still enjoyed it.
And that's why I like Fate Zero a bit more, because since it's a prequel, it's not trying to, like, pull from the game. It's instead showing off that, like, this is how the world's supposed to work, and you have full-grown adults trying to murder each other, and you don't get quite as much silly, like, oh, well, we have to make them pair off, so we're going to write an excuse for them to be happy or date here. It just... It feels better. And again, I really, really like the theory behind the world. Without going super far into that, there's been a ton of stuff written. This is kind of like Japanese Marvel or DC in that someone had a good idea, and then a lot of people have been writing for that idea, and not just that original person. And that original person doesn't necessarily always stick or develop all the ideas that you might find interesting. So there's a whole lot of stories that kind of sort of interact in different worlds, different parts, different things with different amounts of depth, and things don't always line up or they get retconned. So it's all massively confusing. But this is the part of the pie that I like the most, and that would probably be Fate Zero, just because you have full-grown adults dealing with these issues rather than kids who totally should not be dealing with this at all, let alone in the way that they're dealing with it.
Waver was kind of a kid.
Who?
Waver.
Yes, but it worked well because part of the point was he's super out of his freaking depth. Everyone else is a grown adult ready to kill each other at the drop of a... Like, the cool thing about Fate Zero is you get to see that, like, yes, mages trying to kill each other is a scary idea, let alone with these crazy powerful servants. These are people who are super freaking dangerous and absolutely willing to be horrible about it.
I mean, in any other fight, Waver, with that particular rider, would win 9 times out of 10. In any other fight!
Yeah.
Oops, excuse me, I'll have to...
Granted, Waver's not super useful there.
No, but I mean, it's all on the hero.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing, like, in any other fight, that hero would win, but not this time.
That is why I like the one fight that I like in Fate Zero, because you get to see the mages doing stuff rather than just the heroes. In theory, according to the lore, the mages are supposed to support the heroes.
Wait, which one?
The Mercury elemental thing.
Oh, the actual masters fighting.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Because in theory, the masters are supposed to support their servants with magic and whatnot. In practice, that kind of doesn't happen, except when the plot wants to remind you it's a thing. And then it happens in a big, big way.
Reen gets involved a lot in hers.
Yeah, she does.
But everybody, I don't think there's
almost no one else
really-
does, except, of course, Caster's Master, because that's kind of the point. In Unlimited Blade Works. The Dumpster Saber.
Creepy guy, yes.
Yes.
Creepy guy.
I meandered this way through the hours of the evening. Oh, okay. Hi, honey. I love it. There's an abridged series I really like. I forced it on Liz. She hates me for it.
I watched it so I could guilt David into playing Villainous with me.
Yes.
It worked. Although I did watch the most recent episode with you. Yes. We haven't played Villainous.
You're right.
But honestly, you guys, right now I just want to play some D&D, and I'm really upset that we're not playing D&D.
You know, there's a Fate D&D.
I don't want to watch it. I want to play it.
No, I meant as in there's like Fate character stuff in classes.
Do you want to do that with me?
Whichever you like, dear.
I just want to play some D&D. I don't care. I'll make a new character. I want to play D&D.
Yes, dear.
This has gone off the rails, you guys. I'm sorry. We were talking about Fate, but I want to play D&D.
COVID has
My
been
nerd
hard.
is showing. Oh no.
Yeah, this is the lie. You talk about anime like a normal person.
On your cross-stitching video.
Yeah. How dare you talk about D&D? This
am
is a respectable establishment.
I'm the coolest person you've ever met. Just admit it,
It might be
Devoted.
true. I have no standards.
Hey, just because I'm short.
Yep.
Okay, we have like a minute left. Do we have anything to add about Fate?
I wish they would do more with the world, because I really like the ideas that they have, but man, they just don't cash in on them. They get too busy trying to do stupid shippy stuff, or continuing the gimmick of, oh my god, so-and-so famous person was actually a small girl.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And granted, that's because other writers are doing it, and the main writer doesn't do it as much. But even still, he doesn't like fleshing out the stuff he makes. I don't know. I kind of wish there was just one good video game that like let you mess around in the world. I don't know. There's my random ramblings. It's cool stuff.
I love it. I recommend Fate Zero and Unlimited Blade Works 100%. And Heaven's Feel, if you feel you can handle it.
Yeah, if you want more,
and that's all.
That. Yeah.
And that is the end of Rathalos. I got 5 hours and 48 minutes of footage. It's a very cool looking dragon. I like it more than the Devil Joe. The design and the color. Yeah, so I put the white stitching around it because I found out the 12 patterns are not all the same size. And so I got the whitest and the tallest ones, and I did that out. So as I go through, I'll make sure they're all spaced out evenly and take up the same space, and it just fits better. I hope. We'll see. You know. I don't have anything else to add. So like, subscribe, share, comment, all that jazz. And I'll see you guys next video.